future. Thank you.
Bríd Smith.
I'm sharing my time with Deputy Mick Barry. A solidarity to you, Minister, for the threats and the disturbance that you and your family have suffered this week. And I also want to say solidarity to Deputy Paul Murphy, who also this week received death threats from the same sources. Look, I've read over this motion, nearly 3 pages of a motion from the Rural Independents about the Migration Pact, and not a single mention of the causes and the reasons why people move. Somebody recently described the movement of people across the planet at the moment as being like water. No matter what happens, it'll find a way to go somewhere. And that's exactly what's happening with migrants across the planet. Millions of whom are being displaced because of climate change, which causes droughts, which causes floods, which causes economic catastrophe. Millions of whom are being displaced because of war, because of famine, because of persecution over their personal conditions in life, whether that's their religion, their ethnicity, or their sexual orientation. And this is the reality of the world we live in, and yet not one mention of that depth of cruelty and depravity that has taken place on the globe that is causing people to come here. From a group, I would say, that do uphold their own Christian values constantly in this House. They're against, for example, improving abortion laws, originally against repeal. They're probably in the past against divorce. I know they pride themselves on being Christians. They possibly go to Mass every Sunday. I don't. I'm an atheist, but I grew up valuing humanity and human beings. And the people who we're talking about today are human beings. They are not cargo. And even when you go to change the laws about the safe nature of Britain and the need to return migrants to Britain, I think you're treating them as if they were cargo, because all of these people are capable of making a contribution to society. With every hungry belly, there's a pair of hands and a brain. But neither ourselves in this government nor the Tories want to recognise them as human beings. And they're all looking at the elections. They're all looking to see what support they may use. Rishi Sunak's in real trouble in terms of the electoral possibilities for the Tory party, and he is scapegoating refugees in order to win back and to curry favour. And I really think that there's a huge element of that happening right across this House at the moment. And we need people to stand up and say that's what's going on here is scaremongering that men of colour who come to this country are a danger to women and children. That is a huge big factor why communities say they are worried and they are frightened. And yes, there's a shortage of resources, and there's a shortage of houses, and there's a shortage of dentists and a shortage of doctors. But if any of you think that if we deported every single one of them in the morning, that the housing crisis would go away, that we'd have enough dentists, enough doctors, enough creche places, enough room in our hospitals, then you're mad. Because these crises were not created by refugees or asylum seekers. They're the product of continual rule in this state, dominated by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, who favour the rich and the elites, who've made this country one of the 3rd wealthiest on the planet. But ordinary people do not see the benefit of that. And for deputies to say things like plantations and colonisations are taking place, invasions are taking place, and that old and young women are fearful for their safety because of the number of men, asylum seeker men living near them, it's really outrageous, and it does lead to dangerous behaviour and thoughts and speech by many, many people in this country. And just to reiterate something you'd know very well, because in your department as well, the vast, vast majority of sexual and domestic violence is perpetrated on women in this country by men in their lives, by their partners, their ex-partners, relatives, husbands, etc. And to put that story about that the big danger to women are men of colour is a real danger to those men of colour. I think it's high time that the world started seeing people as a resource for each other rather than a threat to each other. And I'll just repeat, with every hungry belly, there's a pair of hands and a brain, and we need workers in this country. One of the deputies over there said, we welcome workers. Well then welcome them and let them work. And I think that's a big part of the solution, both for here and Europe. And the last final word is there's much more to the European Pact that we are opposed to, and that is creating more and more spaces like Libya, where we create slave camps, pay countries to hold on to migrants, to stop them crossing the Mediterranean, and then allow them to be raped, abused and treated as slaves in camps where we're paying countries to do that. That's why we're opposed to the Pact.
Thank you, Deputy.